If somebody said to me, I had to attend a high school reunion or I had to spoon out my own eyeballs, I would say give me the spoon and kiss goodbye to my big blues, because the idea of a high school reunion sounds like hell on earth to me. Spending time with people that made my life miserable, who have no idea who I am now because I look completely different and I don't care what the hell happened to them. No, I'm not doing it. So to you Americans that actually do this, props to you, because oh boy could I not do it. Apologies if you can hear snorting. My little fur baby has decided that she wants to join me for this bit for the first time ever when I've been recording. But back in August, I talked about 4 movies that I wanted to prioritise watching, 2 in September and 2 in November, and this was the second movie that I picked for September. But if you don't know anything about Most Likely to Die from 2015, let me quickly fill you in. Most Likely to Die from 2015 is a slasher horror. A group of former high school classmates gather for a pre-party at one of their homes the night before their 10-year high school reunion, but one by one they are brutally slain in a manner befitting each senior's yearbook superlative. If you're new here, I go by Hordes, and if you're not new, welcome back. The tip of the ear belongs to a little dog called Bug. She doesn't normally make an appearance, but she has decided to today. And I talk about horror movies here on my channel on Mondays and Fridays. But as always, when it comes to watching movies that I have never seen before, I am now going to go and watch Most Likely to Die from 2015 off camera. So that way, if you two decide that you want to watch the high school reunion slasher movie, nothing will be spoilt for you, because nobody wants to watch a movie that you've just watched somebody else watch from start to finish, and I keep it spoiler free here on my channel.
It's not that bad.
I can honestly say that I have never watched a movie where somebody gets pinned to a wall using a graduation hat that has a blade for a brim before. Who needs enemies when you have friends like these?
F is for friends who do stuff together.
I'll start by saying that I think I enjoyed this movie way more than a lot of people will, for the simple fact that I am the right age demographic and I was the target audience for this movie. When this movie came out, I would have been 24. The actors in this are playing characters are around 28, and a lot of the actors in this had been in other stuff that I had seen before, like Heather Morris. Everybody of my generation grew up watching Glee. If you didn't, where the hell were you when that was airing? And if you don't know who Perez Hilton was, like, you were living under a rock in 2015. There is nothing wrong with a straightforward slasher movie that just wants to be a straightforward slasher movie. And Most Likely to Die is a straightforward slasher movie. We go from A to B to C as we watch the attendees of this like class reunion get picked off one by one, and their bodies arranged in ways that relate to their most likely to entry from their yearbooks. It is quite pacey, this movie. The entire movie is about an hour and 18 minutes, not including the credits in this. And it very swiftly goes from one kill to the next kill to the next kill, but without it being on top of each other. You get enough little bits of breathing space between, so it doesn't feel too overcrowded. Now, originally, I was gonna say I would have probably liked maybe another kill in this, but when I counted them, I was so surprised to find out there is actually 7 on-camera kills in this movie, which I absolutely was not expecting.
Want more?
Did I guess who the killer was? Pleasantly, I can say that I did not guess who the killer was going to be in this one. And when you actually find out who it is, it does actually make sense once you get given the information, like in the big reveal. And then that final scene happens, like right at the very end, which kind of leaves everything a little bit open-ended. It's like they wanted to do a sequel, but they didn't know if they were going to get greenlit for a sequel. Now, I'm in two minds about whether this movie should have a sequel, because the killer and their origin story, their yearbook entry is Most Likely to Die, and you find out what actually happened to this person. So their origin story is rooted in this particular group of classmates. So if you did a sequel, you would probably have to change the character to a different group of classmates. So would it feel the same, or would it feel like a copycat? It would probably feel like a copycat. But by not doing a sequel to this movie, it feels very like the surviving characters in this are going to spend the rest of their lives looking over their shoulders to check if like things are still good, and I think that that is the option that I would prefer. Like that twist at the end, but I'm gonna say no sequel. And considering this has been 9 years, please, no, not a surprise sequel now, please, no. The acting in this is very hit or miss depending on who the character is. And before I watched this, if you had told me that Perez Hilton was going to be my favourite in this, I would have laughed at you, because did I expect that? No. But Perez Hilton pleasantly took me by surprise in this. Like, the director basically said to the guy, I would like you to play a gay recovering alcoholic. And Perez Hilton said, that's all I need to know, I've got this. And he really did have this, which, like I said, I was not expecting.
Are you serious?
But Perez Hilton's character of Freddy isn't actually the only LGBTQ plus character in this movie, and there is actually a lesbian character in this who is also equally open about their sexuality, and all of their friends from 10 years ago are completely accepting of both of these characters, which is a complete breath of fresh air. And it makes me even happier to say that this is not a movie that has gone for the bury your gays trope. If you don't know what the bury your gays trope is, it is where somebody will include a queer character of some variety just so that they can tick that representation box and then immediately kill them off. And that does not happen in Most Likely to Die. The deaths are practical effects, and this makes me very happy. And some of them are quite bloody, which I wasn't expecting, considering that this movie is only a 15 rated here in the UK, so they tend to rein things back in a little bit. But I do like the fact that the killer's weapon of choice in this is a Stanley knife or a utility knife, depending on, where you are in the world, and Stanley being a brand and everything. And this is kind of showcased more in the opening credits, which I have to give a quick shout out to because I love the opening credits sequence, because you see the killer cutting out the yearbook pictures using this knife and gluing them onto their paper mache mask, which is such a little reference that you would not have picked up on just looking at the mask in the movie. It is just a hodgepodge of paper mache with the word die written across the forehead. But when you know it's the yearbook post, little pictures of the people that bullied this character, it is such a cool little reference, and I can't not mention this because I love how subtle it is, but it's great. I bring this up because I think the synopsis of this movie is what is actually having a knock-on effect on its rating for this. Because in the synopsis, it says that characters are going to be killed off in ways that relate to what is said about them in the yearbook, which isn't entirely true. Every character in this is killed off using the Stanley knife / utility knife, so there's a lot of slashing in this slasher movie, but it's how their bodies get displayed and how they are found that is actually related to what is said about them in the yearbook. So lower your expectations just a little bit for this, because like I said, it's a 15 rated and it's not a Saw movie.
Scooby-Doo, take note.
The fact that this movie has been slated on Letterboxd does hurt my soul a little bit, because I absolutely don't think that it deserves the low rating that it's currently got. And when I tell you it's low, as I am filming this and before I add my rating over on Letterboxd, it currently has a 1.9 out of 5 stars from 830 reviews. And if I thought it deserved that rating, I would be here now telling you I don't think it's a good movie and I don't think that you should watch it. But I'm not here saying that. I did find out that this movie was actually written in the late 90s amongst the Scream boom. So this is a Scream-inspired slasher movie, and once I found that out, it made absolutely perfect sense what the plot of this movie was going to be. Yes, it is a generic slasher movie. It feels like a 90s generic slasher movie, but that is not a bad thing, because we are all familiar with that format of slasher movie, which means that this movie is so easy to follow along with. In the end, I am actually going to give Most Likely to Die from 2015 a 3.5 out of 5 stars, because I 100% think that people are focusing far too much on the negatives of this movie rather than actually giving it credit for the positives. Now, it is very snappy, an hour and 18 minutes from start to finish. It has 7 on-screen kills, which is unheard of in a 15 rated horror movie. It has positive LGBTQ plus representation, which I cannot fault it for in that sense. And it asks a question that I don't think a lot of reunion movies actually ask, and that is, how well can you know somebody when you haven't seen them in 10 years? Because nobody is the same person that they were in high school after 10 years. The gun plot, though, that, I could have done without that. Because that felt like, how can we hinge in this thing that we need for the end of the movie? So I'll just say I could have done without that bit. So there you have it, my initial thoughts and my review from my first time watching Most Likely to Die from 2015. And yes, I am aware that this was a slash movie aimed at me, and I have no problems with that. If you've also seen this movie, I would love to know what your thoughts and opinions are on it down in the comments section down below. And if this is a movie that you haven't watched but you would be interested in watching, I will leave a link to where I watched this one online so you can go and check it out for yourself. If you would like to know where else you can find me though, I am also over on Instagram and Letterboxd at HordesOfHorror, where I have currently watched over 150 horror movies throughout the year, so there are plenty that I haven't talked about here on YouTube. But speaking of YouTube, I will be back on Friday, and this time it's another list video, and it's time for round 3 of 8 horror movies that I am never gonna rewatch. So until next time, bye.